Okay.
Greetings, everyone. It's Monday, April 22nd, 2019. The year is clicking right along here. We're 8 days from the end of the month. My name is Mark Harris. We do this team call every Monday. If you're brand new to this crew, welcome. It's lovely to have you. Please spread the word to your new distributors and anybody else you'd like to put on this who have joined as a distributor in LifeVantage. We try to bring updates and announcements and promotions and events. And from time to time, we have the privilege of having very special guests on. And without further ado, I'm not going to do those announcements or promotions here at the front end. I'm going to save those for the end of tonight. We have Karen Massey, who's one of the leaders in our team out in Lexington, Kentucky. And she is an amazing friend, has been long before we joined LifeVantage. And Karen, will you tell us just a little bit about our special guest tonight and turn it over to her?
Yes, what a blessing. Well, Dr. Nancy Bryan, we met her here in Kentucky. She has a team here, and we've been building together. We cross-train together. We have meetings together, and I tell you, God has just put such a deep love in my heart for you, Nancy, and Mike and I feel so blessed and so privileged to be friends with you. And you're just such a wonderful example and humble woman of God. I know you probably don't want to hear all that, but it's true, especially when you hear, you guys, all the stuff that this woman has accomplished. She's like Superwoman, but she's not only a scientist, she's on the LifeVantage science board. She's a doctor of pharmacology. She's a formulator. She's a pharmacist. She's a nutrigenomics educator. She is a certified diabetic educator and specialist, and a medical, nutritional, and veterinarian formulator. It just goes on and on. She would never tell you all that. I asked her, tell me all of your stuff so I can share just how special and amazing she is, and gifted, really. And we're just very blessed to have her on tonight. She doesn't do this for everybody because she is in such high demand and travels and teaches all over. And so we just feel very blessed, Nancy, to have you. And specifically, Nancy and I were talking about the function of vitamin C with Protandim, and she's going to go into some of that and whatever else she feels led to talk about. So welcome, Nancy. We love you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can't tell you how much you mean to me in my little group in Kentucky, because you know what? There is nothing greater than coming across the country and doing a meeting and having all those smiling faces there. It means a lot. And I love that our groups work together. And you know what? I feel like you do, that I truly have been blessed. And I'm grateful every day for you guys as well. Believe me, you are every bit as knowledgeable and important. And that'd be the one thing I'd say to all of you that have this information. LifeVantage does give us in our back office and website most of the information that I ever talk about. When I'm training my own groups, I do try to keep it simple, because the reality is we have lots of workshops and things we can do to get deeper on that at some of our meetings and all those kinds of things. But on a day-to-day basis, people want to know just a couple things. You know, does it work and is it real? And honestly, that is one of the things. I know when we were talking as we first got on tonight, Mark had asked me a couple of things. So the first thing I want to say is thank you, all of you, for having me on the call or the Zoom or whatever is the method of people listening in. The reason this came about was because not too long ago, Karen, or I can't even talk today. I'm sorry, I got a little frog in my throat all of a sudden. She had texted me a question about one of her customers, and the doctor was saying she needed to stay on high doses of vitamin C. And so we started this exchange going back and forth in Messenger, and I can tell you that I don't think that she thought she was going to get all the information she got. But that's the time I like to share that information, because guess what? It's in a form now that she'll be able to share with all of you. And that's my purpose. Is I don't mind answering questions for lots of different people outside of my group and within my group. What I want to do, though, is make it duplicatable so that people can share it easily amongst themselves. It isn't for me to keep this information or for you to have to spend hours looking for it. So, but what came from that conversation was one of the biggest issues that we all have when people first start getting started on, be it our Vitality Stack or even Nerve 2 and Nerve 1, is that I generally will sit down with them and ask them first and foremost, what are you hoping this is going to do for you? And when we started our conversation tonight, Mark had asked if I would address this because it's going to be hard for you to believe, but not everybody I talk to signs up either. In fact, most of the people I know are in my kind of world. They don't even want to hear about any of this. So I think if I could express one thing to help you more than anything before I talk about the vitamin C itself, is the fact that really, truly, I know all of you on here care about people. I know that you hear them and you see what's going on with them. And the first thing you want to do is just share all this information and throw up all over them, all this information. And the thing is, they're so overwhelmed because you maybe have had a little bit of time to gather this information. They're getting it all at once. So one thing that you want to make sure of, back to what I just said, they want to know, is it real? And they want to know, is, what's it going to do for them? Why do they need this? And so I ask them that question. What is it that you're hoping this is going to help you with? And that's really important because when they start telling you, then they become vested in the process as well as what you're vested in. They're going to be as vested in hoping and moving forward as you are with them having good results. And so just keep that in mind in terms of when you're sitting with someone, is try to ask more questions than answers, because really, truly, you're going to learn so much and you'll be surprised, because what you see in that person and what you're thinking, oh my gosh, this would be so helpful for this, this, and this, many times they may turn around and share something with you that you're going to be amazed that you don't know anything about, or you don't know what it is that's really troubling them. And so that thing that maybe you saw that you thought would be beneficial for them, it's not even on their radar. They don't even care about it or want to know about it. And now you're just kind of talking into a wall. So just try to ask those questions first and foremost. Now, when I do that, one of the first things that I do ask is, what are they currently taking to try to accomplish those things? And so generally, in my case, because of my background, I tend to get a lot of people that are on a lot of medications, that are over medicated. I also will get a lot of people that are very, very ill. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, they've come to me as sort of a last resort. That may happen to a lot of you as well, where they've tried so many different things and they've not had good results. And so because of that, it's really important to try to figure out what it is that they're looking for to begin with. And sometimes they're not even looking for something. So when you start asking those questions, what do you hope that this will accomplish for you? You're going to start being able to start working as a team instead of you being the person that's, dumping all this information on them. All right. So having said that, what I found in the past, when I've sat down with people, a lot of times they'll start telling me all the different things they're taking. Well, I get this huge bottle from Costco, and I've got this bottle from Walgreens, and then I grabbed this at the grocery store, and my uncle gave me this. And before you know it, they've got like 6 things. And like traditional medicine, they're taking this thing for this, and this for this, and this for this. So they're taking something for their allergies this time of year. They're taking something for joint pain. They're taking something, somebody told them this is great for inflammation. Oh, they might be coming down with a cold, so they're taking this. And what I've found to be the case is time and time again, when you take a look at all the things they're on, almost all those things contain a small amount of vitamin C, or even maybe a large amount of vitamin C. Well, here's where the problem comes when we're dealing with our NRF2 activator. Our NRF2 activator is made from 5 plants that are tiny amounts. Okay, those five ingredients, 5 tiny amounts, and they each blend together to make up a recipe, like a cake. When you stick in eggs and flour and baking So all those things, you blend them all together in the bowl, you stick it in the oven, and it comes out a cake. It's something completely different than what was in that bowl to begin with. And what's the one thing that you know? We love grandma's recipe. That one turned out really good. And what you're not going to do to grandma's recipe is stick in 3 times the amount of flour. Or you're not going to stick in 3 times the amount of baking soda. Or here, let's put in 4 tablespoons of salt instead of a half a teaspoon. So the ratio matters. And when we're talking about vitamin C, it is considered a direct antioxidant from outside. And what we're trying to do is turn on our own antioxidants on the inside. So when they're on a large amount of antioxidants, vitamin C in general, that can wreck that recipe. And so you may not see the NRF2 activation operate as completely or optimally as we'd like to see it. So it matters if they've got 5 or 6 or 8 bottles in front of you and you're seeing that they have all these different things. I generally tell them what I'd like them to do is to take and put those aside. The purpose of our Vitality Stack is to be complete wellness for your cell. And at some other point in time, we can discuss that, what those 4 pillars are. But the bottom line is, when they are taking those extra bottles, it's going to change the recipe. Now, added to that, they're going to give you a little pushback because A, they just spent a bunch of money on this stuff. And B, it's their belief system. And C, probably somebody that they believe in told them, like their naturopath, or in the case when Karen and I were talking in this conversation, it was her, I believe her naturopath that was telling her to stay on these high doses of vitamin C. Well, here's what we now know today. Today, there are studies out there demonstrating that doses of vitamin C, even at small amounts, can be very damaging to our cells. And the main reason is because there is currently no vitamin C on the market that's actually natural. It's all synthetic today. And that's just where we are. And so all of those different kinds of vitamin C that are within those different bottles, you'll not only see that almost all the different ideas of what you can fix for this and that all also include some vitamin C. And so by the time you look, they're on large amounts of it. Even if it's just the minimum daily requirement in each bottle, they add up. And that adds to basically a little bit of toxic soup, if you will. Because vitamin C, when it goes into our system, here's how it works. Vitamin C goes in, it wakes up our immune system, yes, but it does so in a very kamikaze or uncontrolled fashion. It's overstimulating our immune system, if you will. When it gets mad, and that's what you're doing, that's probably an okay thing when for a day or two you're taking a vitamin C because you're getting a little bit of a cold. For the immune system at that point to go wild for a day or two is probably not all that harmful because it is going to boost your immune system to get rid of a virus. But the problem is it's in everything all the time. And to take large doses of vitamin C, like we're seeing recommendations of at some of these clinics now, they are not understanding what that is actually doing. And it is really disrupting your immune system. So when they tell me that they're on a large amount of vitamin C and that their doctor needs it, one of the things that I will do is I will get out the study. And Karen does have the link for that. I checked with her before our call tonight, and she will make sure that you get it. But at even just some of the lowest doses, we have seen several forms of cancer being fed by vitamin C. So don't take my word for it. Look at the study and know and understand it. And so it's really important. And when I told this information to Karen, she had heard bits and parts of it from when I had spoken before, but I don't know that I ever gave her the study. Is that true, Karen? Do you remember? I think that's, yep, she's shaking her head, yes. And so I thought, you know what, it's really important. So I sent it to her because we now know when you look more into advancement, we now have even current studies with Protandim versus vitamin C in some athletes. And it shows very distinctly the difference and the benefits that Protandim has in our cells, where it actually really enhances the body to do everything we say. It's allowing the body to produce its own antioxidants, its own anti-inflammatory processes, and so the body functions better and those athletes perform better. In the vitamin C, it did just the opposite. And we have those studies as well, and I believe I sent those to Karen as well. And so the bottom line is I wanted to be able to share with you why it is important for them not to be on high doses of vitamin C, for them to take a look. And this is something you don't have to be a pharmacist or a pharmacologist. You can have them just take a look themselves. Say, hey, if you could, get out all the things you're taking and line them up. See how many of them have vitamin C. And I will guarantee you almost all of them will. And it's amazing. It's, you know, this is America. If a little bit of something's good, we're going to dump a whole bunch of it on you. That's how we work, right? So that was pretty much the premise of what we wanted to talk to you about today. Secondarily, if they have a lot of vitamin E, a lot of that is synthetic as well. And that study also did state that we did see some of those results with vitamin E as well. And one thing you do need to know and understand, there are even some NRF2 activators that will promote cancer cells activation of their NRF2, which is not what we want. And we actually have studies, one of which is being peer reviewed currently, and I'm hoping it'll be published soon. I do have those results that definitely demonstrate our Protandim NRF2 activator is amazing, because it's the optimum, the highest NRF2 activation in a healthy cell, and it does not activate in a cancer cell. That's very important when you're dealing with cancer patients, because a lot of times the doctors will stop them from being on other things, and that's why they may have seen some of the articles showing things like sulforaphane and lots of the other things that claim to be NRF2 activators actually enhance the cancer cells, and we don't want to be doing that. So that's the other side note that I wanted to be able to bring out in terms of comparisons of what we do and what we don't do. Okay, so is that pretty much what you had in mind tonight, Karen? I want to make sure that I hit on the things you wanted me to touch on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I just want to clarify. So that we can all understand what you're saying is that the reason why we're not taking vitamin C along with Protandim is because Protandim, as it activates NRF2, it's producing our own antioxidant. Is that glutathione? Is that the production of glutathione? Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, it actually increases glutathione production by about 300%. But it's also superoxide dismutase, catalase, and a few other things probably that we don't even know of.
Okay.
All right.
So if we take vitamin C, it's going to interrupt that.
I'm sorry, I did not hear you.
No, I was just saying, so if we take vitamin C, it will interrupt the production of our own antioxidant. Is that right?
It changes the recipe, so we won't get as high an activation. And because it does end up changing that recipe, who knows what other effects that may have. You know, I don't want to know, because it now becomes something else. And that's really important. Okay.
Sounds
All
good.
Right. So one of the things I'd like to do, I know you guys had some announcements and things that you wanted to bring up, but I just wanted to get that statement clarified, and for you to know and understand how important it is for you to understand what the person is really wanting from this. Because those two things will really open up a huge dialogue, and you'll find yourself in a really good place, because then you're working as a team together. All right? And it took me a long time to learn that, believe me. I spent a lot of time throwing up all over all kinds of people. And they didn't listen, let me tell you, they didn't. So it's really important to know. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor of pharmacology, and I can tell you I'm very good friends with Dr. Sveta. I'm very good friends with Dr. Melody Rodarte. We've all been through it. And, you know, we're learning just like you are. We are. And you know what? Like you as well, most of our own family are our toughest critics, you know, because they know us. They know us as our doggie's mom instead of, you know, somebody that's a scientist.
Nancy,
All right.
if you can hang in here for a couple questions real quick, I'd like to impose upon your time just a little bit longer. There was one question that came in from the chat group.
Okay.
So your value in a vitamin C cleanse or a flush?
Boy, and I hope it's not my Wi-Fi. I didn't hear all of your question.
I'll repeat it. It could be on my end. So you don't see any real value from a vitamin C cleanse or a vitamin C flush then?
No, I really don't. Now, there'll probably be some people that will argue in our company about that, but I can only tell you from what I see I can only judge by cells. I am a cellular focused chemist. That's what I look at, is the chemical reactions that go on within a cell. And once you know and understand the real mechanisms of vitamin C, you know what? Maybe it had value before we were doing what we're doing, but I don't see a lot of value in our system whatsoever in really, really upsetting our immune system. And that's why you'll even hear us talk in our probiotic, how it contains something called Wellmune. The whole basis of that working so well in our digestive tract is that it stimulates our immune system. It stimulates our white blood cells to do what they're supposed to, but it doesn't overstimulate. And that's the key. So when you're doing those massive flushes, you know what, there's other things. I know that I do think that there is some value to people when they go in and do some of the coffee enemas, those kinds of things. I do think there's some value with those. But the IV high doses of vitamin C, first of all, it's synthetic. So everything that we know about vitamin C in science can't relate to that, because they're literally using a drug for what it's worth. It's synthetic. It's not what's coming out of an orange. That's what I can tell you.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, experience that I have heard, our prebiotic is doing just a bang up job of that function as well. I'm over the on our prebiotic on that.
Well, and
a lot of people love that stuff.
Well, and I am so happy about that. I'm so lucky in so many avenues about that product. First and foremost, one of my dear friends that's here is who manufactures it. So when you get to be part of this company and get to have input like that, I can't even tell you how exciting it is. I know that sounds crazy, but and they're probably, I have to be the only person on the planet that gets so super excited about our prebiotic. But if you know and understand the gut and understand how important that function is, I think down the road, we're going to see that 1-2 punch from the prebiotic and probiotic every bit as important as the 1-2 punch from our Nerf 2 and Nerf 1. And nobody has either. That's what we have. And that prebiotic was really specifically designed because there's lots of different ways to feed our probiotics, but to be able to have it so multifaceted the way our prebiotic does it. Now, I will tell you, I always try to start really slow. One, it contains 3 oligosaccharides, and one of them is inulin. And inulin, in its function, can create a little gas. And so I always tell people, you know what, if you haven't been used to taking different kinds of fibers and that sort of thing, start with a very tiny amount. And secondarily, know and understand that everything that was put together with that product was to be able to help the probiotic. That's its whole goal. They don't have to be taken together. The prebiotic, I always tell people, take it 15 or 20 minutes before your largest meal, or if you tend to be like me, I'm one of those people, I get up and I have a pretty good sized breakfast, and then for some reason around 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm ravenous. And I could eat like a box of cookies, or I could eat something that I know I shouldn't. And it's because I've been fasting all night sleeping, because that's what you do, you don't eat. And then I get up and I have breakfast and my pancreas gets excited and it puts out this insulin, and then it's looking and saying, hey, you need some more sugar. That for me is when I take my probiotic. I'll have a little bit of drinking it first thing around 11 o'clock in the morning, because that's when all of a sudden I'm starving. Now, other people, they may find that in the evening, and so they'll take it before their dinner. It just depends on when that pattern tends to happen for you. But I try to get, you know what, people need to know and understand we're all different. So just kind of move it around a little bit and see what works best. But honestly, those 3 different types of oligosaccharides feed different probiotics within our tract in different places. But the important thing to know is it doubles our amount of probiotic every 20 minutes for a series of time. Think about that. And some of the probiotic we put there and others are already there. So it just really enhances what we have. Okay.
That's really cool. I have one burning question. I have to ask this. With your background in pharmacology in mind, I still get this question, Doc, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you address the nerve tissue. And I've had medical doctors give me a little bit of.
Oh, darn it.
Yeah.
I did not hear the question at all. You froze. Maybe other people are hearing it, but
no, Mark, we're not hearing you. You're going in and out.
All right, let me try one more time. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I apologize. It's got to be on my end. There's a perennial question that continues to rear its head, and it centers around the argument that there are not a lot of human studies on Protandim. Mm-hmm. And we've had some coaching for medical doctors talking about the difference between pharmaceutical testing and 5 tiers testing to lethality and LD50 and all that. Can you just comment on addressing that objection?
Well, when you're talking about studies, those studies are done for disease states. And the problem that we have is the FDA, especially since we're publicly traded, we're up for display for everyone. We may not try to take a disease state and fix it with our product. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't accomplish it, but to try to prove it, we wouldn't be able to make the statement. That's why we always have to say we don't treat, prevent, mitigate, or cure. And so we as a company will not have studies done like that. It doesn't mean that we aren't going to have human studies that are going to start being made and done just like many of the other ones we have already that are done by other people. And you have to understand too that we're coming from a perspective of a cell and our body doing that work. So when people say to me, you don't, because I get it too, you know what, this is something you need to know. Most of my peers are just like me. So you can imagine me trying to talk to them. The first thing they're looking at me like, what are you doing? Why? Why are you even doing this? They can't for the life of me. And I tell them, if you saw what I see, you'd be here too. And because I see so many people that are in much worse conditions, it doesn't matter what the disease states are. I'm looking at gene expression, and all I care about is the genes properly being displayed because oxidative stress hasn't built up. And when we talk about mitochondrial damage in NRF1, all those studies, I understand, and I do believe down the road we will have those, but the number one reason that you do not see those is we could complete the study and prove that we cure everything. It wouldn't do us any good. We could never utilize that. And it doesn't, and I know people say, oh, well, I would do it anyway. No, they wouldn't. They don't. And that's why you don't see a lot of those kinds of studies. But what you're going to see is you're going to see things like, and we'll see a result of it because of it. For instance, that study I just talked about with athletes, when we're seeing in the muscle how much better it does than with vitamin C. You know what? It just makes sense that if your body's performing better, it's going to do much better against any disease state. So I don't know if that's a clear enough answer for you, but for me, when I'm talking to most of my colleagues, it's probably easier from my perspective because I just start laughing at them and go, look, we're never, ever, ever going to be able to say that we cure that. You know that. And so the purpose is we need to do things on a cellular basis. The second and more important too is how long it takes. When you know and understand human studies and see, that's why I don't know why we don't talk more and more and more about that National Institute on Aging study. That was a 10-year study done over and over and over and over and over. I can't think of anything that's more statistically significant than saying that the life of mice were extended. To me, it's like, okay, drop the microphone, right? The reason their life was extended is they weren't dying from all the diseases.
Right. Right.
So when they say that to me, the number one thing that I'll say is, you know what, they probably are coming, and they probably are. But that's how new we are. I mean, they're coming not from us, but we're going to be seeing the significance of NRF2. I just attended over the last weekend a environmental health symposium that was here in Scottsdale, and Dr. Sveta Silverman was with me. When we were there, you can't believe now this is a very small conference. We're talking about maybe a couple hundred doctors. There might have been a few more than that, but they had their booths all set up, and we went around to all the little booths to see what was there because I'm always interested. There were 4 different booths there on NRF2 activation, and they were all claiming they were number 1. And all they were different forms of sulforaphane. And when we went and talked to them each specifically, because we did, they had never heard of our product. So the job we have to do is we need to get out there, and people need to know we are definitively, there is no other proven NRF2 activator as powerful as ours in healthy cells. All right? That is definitive, and we need to own that. We need to own that we are the forefront of nutrigenomics. Okay?
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Dr. Nancy Bryan, for taking the time to share with this little group tonight. Thank you, Karen, for facilitating that. We love you, Doc, and we're so appreciative for everything you do on the Scientific Advisory Board. Please give our love to that astute and esteemed crew as well. And guys, if you want to hug Dr. Bryan's neck, you have to do that in July here in Kansas. Yeah. Just a heads up, I'll close the call here because we're over time, but just remind your folks, the $129 pre-registration for Elite Academy in Kansas City goes up to $169 May 1st. So if you've got folks in your team that have not registered, please make sure you do that. And my encouragement, guys, if you have not helped your new distributors get their money back, please take that as a moral responsibility to do that. We've got 8 days till the end of the month. If you've got distributors who can't afford their auto ship, let's help them make some money by the end of the month. And if you've enrolled customers that are taking one of our products, I want to challenge all of us to reach out to those PCs in the next 8 days and have a conversation with them. First, we need to find out how they're doing. 2, they need to know that we got a load of stuff. We cover the full spectrum of human application with these life-changing products. And man, we owe so much of that to the work that these guys on the Scientific Advisory Board and the 1,000 practitioners who are now contributing to this family on a daily basis and bringing folks to this little culture that we love so very much. So with that, Nancy, thank you so much for taking the time, sister.
Absolutely.
Hey, Mark.
There's a few people that have some questions.
Yeah, I was going to say Stephanie has a burning question. Would it be okay if we can let her ask that?
Yeah, fire away.
Hey, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, sorry, I was going to try to ask this earlier, but I was driving, and so I couldn't text it. Dr. Nancy, I was wondering if you are familiar with Dr. Thomas Levy, who I think would be considered one of the vitamin C experts maybe in the world. Have you ever heard of him?
I have.
And so I haven't read, it's been a couple years since I was really digging into his stuff, but his, I think listening to him is actually what made Protandim make sense to me when I heard about NRF2 activation. And I was curious, like, I know from what I listened to years ago that, you know, he would say that even synthetic vitamin C is one of the only vitamins and minerals, well, they're one of 4, I think, that, I forget what the term was, but decreased like all-cause mortality in humans. Like, I'm curious, like, how you would compare.
Here's what I want to tell you, just so you have a little
Yeah.
bit of my background, and I did not describe this earlier, but this has been something that I've been working on for a very long number of years. Not early out of pharmacy school, I knew I was going to help take people off medication. It was just, you know what, I spent all my time in the greenhouse in pharmacy schools. They don't even have those anymore, but I always came at it from a different perspective because of my biochemistry background. And so when I moved to Phoenix, I became familiar with a company that was here and actually ended up having a very good relationship with a gentleman by the name of Alfred Libby. And I would encourage you all to look up who that is, because I can tell you who he was. He was the understudy under Dr. Linus Pauling. That's a guy that kind of understood vitamin C, since he was the one that discovered it.
Right.
Well,
right.
Dr. Libby is who did the majority of the work under him. And I had the great privilege of working with him here in Phoenix, helping to develop several other products, one of which is a bone product that I utilize. I helped with that product, and that is a really unique calcium product. But the bottom line is, he told me back in the probably late 80s, early 90s is when he and I were having those discussions with vitamin C. And he told me, he said, the problem is, he said, a lot of people are taking the information that they're utilizing and seeing in all these studies and assuming a lot of things. And the bottom line is, they're not really totally understanding the difference between synthetic vitamin C and natural vitamin C is just like what we're probably experiencing with Protandim. There's probably parts within those plants that we don't even know about yet, that there may be enzymes in them. We don't know all the significant things of them, but we know, just take a look at the difference between Tecfidera versus our Protandim. They should technically do about the same thing, and yet the differences are just massive, especially in the side effect profile. And so the problem is, they take and they do a lot of the studies. I'm not saying that there wasn't a benefit to it at one point in time, but now we know that there's also a risk. We now know that there's a downside to it, and there always is when it's synthetic. There always is. And that's the point that I try to bring up. And maybe on its own, it has value. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if I'm going to deal with someone that I'm hoping, and again, I have very severely ill patients that I see, I can't risk the NRF2 activation not happening because of that vitamin C being there.
Sure.
And so that's how I would answer that. And I'm not saying his work isn't important, and I'm not saying, I mean, there's lots of things out there that are really important, but I have a really deep understanding of vitamin C, and I have for a very long time. And because of that, that's why when I found out about Protandim, it took me a year. I didn't just jump into this. I started taking it, but I wasn't going to tell other people or talk about it till I really understood. And so I hope that helps you understand. Again, I'm going to hear lots of things, but 5 years from now, you're going to be chuckling to yourself and go, oh, that darn doctor, she actually knew something. All right.
No,
so
thank you.
Hopefully you'll know and understand, and they're just going to do so much better with this.
For
all
sure.
right?
Thank you.
Now, if there's one thing that I will do, sometimes one NRF2 is not enough. That I will tell you, sometimes they do need to be on it twice a day. And that is something we don't talk a lot about. because that's a very small part of the population we're talking about. People are not seeing within 3 to 6 months the results that they really need. There's a really good likelihood that they need to up the NRF2 to twice a day. And I add the, every time I add a NRF2, I add at least 3 more omegas. If you've heard Mark Gordon speak, Dr. Gordon will always tell you, on average, probably the majority of people should be on at least 6 of the omegas. We made it a low dose because we have to be careful. But on the average, if they're not seeing the results they need, that's probably the case. They're not getting enough NRF2 activation. And they're probably not absorbing it, and it's a gut issue. All right?
Okay.
Sounds good.
Any other questions? No?
I think that's it.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Tonight. I hope that helped.
Yes, helped a lot. Mark, is that it?
Yeah, thank you so much, Nancy. We're over time, so we'll save the announcements upcoming. We've still got the end of the Ireland trip qualification. If you are close to that, please reach out to your plugged in upline. Say, hey, I'm close. We need help. We need to get to Ireland. Please let us know that. In the Ascend to Influencer, that's going. Of course, pace setter programs going on. And the Physique 90-day transformational change ends at the end of May. So looking forward to seeing who wins that. We've got a little intra-team challenge going on as well. And I'm losing some weight. So, and I know some people
listen, one last thing. Carrie, Dickey, and myself and Sharon Dominguez are going to be in Louisville, Kentucky, not this week, but next week, Thursday. So you know what, if you guys are looking for that information and you know anybody in Louisville, oh goodness, I would not miss that one.
Yeah.
And on that point, Jackie Shepard, our dear beloved sweet mom Jackie, is going to be presenting the team opportunity call this Thursday night with a behavioral and learning disorders background. She'll be locked and loaded, ready to go for Thursday night. So please invite your folks to that. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to jump on. Please promote this call. We hope it's important. We hope it's helpful. And with folks like Nancy jumping on, it sure makes it so. Thank you, Julie, as well, for facilitating and for Karen, and once again for setting it up. Thanks, everybody. You'll have a great
Good questions. Bye.
Love you, Nancy. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Good.